All right. Hopefully I have everything set up. Let's see if everything worked. Merry Christmas. Shoot. Yeah, my background is flipped. Let's see if that works a little bit better. Since there's not a Twitter space, and there's no PP show, I had some interesting thoughts, and I feel like they'd be good to share. I guess before we get started, this is a disclaimer. This is not theological advice. I'm not a theologian. Please refer to the proper avenues to do so. You won't find it here. Um, all right, so something kind of, I had a lot of interesting conversations with people in Florida, which I really appreciated. And then something kind of came to my mind when I was thinking about Christmas today. And I guess we'll start with a trivia question that I didn't realize till today. Where does it say that Mary rode in on a donkey before she gave birth to Jesus? You know, that's typically how you see it in every nativity scene. There's always a donkey, but where does it actually talk about that donkey? If if your answer is the proto evangelion of of James, chapter 17, then good job. Uh, so it's not a it's not a strictly, I guess, canonically biblical thing that there's a donkey in the Christmas story, but I think I can make a pretty good case why it at least symbolically works. So I know some people might be offended if some people take things very literally, people take things very symbolically. Um, you can make it as literal as you want. I prefer to at least start symbolically because I see a ton of overlap between what a lot of people believe when you approach it from that angle, and whoever wants to go from there how they please is up to them. I hope I don't offend people. I'm not implying anything isn't literal, just that it's profoundly symbolic in the same way that, how our dreams work. And I think that our dreams help us understand the meaningful context of our life to make choices. And when we look at stories, especially stories that a lot of people resonate with, um, it helps us figure out those symbols. So, um, so I'll start here. It might kind of go a little crazy. I've been thinking about doing a video like this for some time, and I figure might as well just chaotically, roll with it instead of actually painfully map it out. So in the book of John, it says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him, and without him, nothing that was made was made. Um, he was in the world, and the world was made by him, and the world knew him not." So this might seem quite heretical, and this is where I'm definitely not saying this is the only interpretation. But I find some interesting overlap with the idea in the beginning was the Word. If you think about I don't even know that you have to call it a spiritual journey, but your journey to in life and love. At the beginning, all we have is a word. That's all there is at the beginning is the word love. We don't understand it. We don't embody it. We can't definitively do it, but we have the word and we can use it. Um, and Merry Christmas to everyone that's in the chat. I love you guys. You're all awesome. Um, oh wow, Johnny Jakes the 50. Merry Christmas. That's awesome. So uh, this when you look at so the reason I thought about a donkey is because what is that word when there's nothing else beyond just that word. Actually, let me backtrack a little bit. In science, my background's actually, believe it or not, not in finance or law, hence so much imposter syndrome that I feel. But in science, especially in biology, the first thing they do when they discover something is they name it, which is the time when they know the least about it. And so a lot of names in science are completely opposite of what they actually are, just because they name it by what they found it next to or with, or in some they just kind of take a stab at it. And sometimes they end up changing the name, but sometimes it takes a lot of research before they end up figuring out what it is. And by the time they figure out what it is, there's so much research out there with that name that they have a hard time changing it. So some scientists, for that reason, end up using just a funny name, and after their favorite TV show, whatever it is. There's lots of odd names in science, which also makes it really hard to remember them all. But so that name is, at the very beginning of the journey, has nothing behind it except for it's it's something we've we've noticed, right? Um, and it can look like a donkey. That it's stubborn. We might have our definition, and we might stubbornly try to do it, and 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 if we stay stubborn, right? I mean, someone said a fool who persists in his folly can become wise, right? Like if you actually, even with that whatever starting point, if you really put things to the test through that refiner's fire, test it, redefine it, test it, redefine it, it can, it will approach truth. Um, so, but everyone starts off with, you could say, this version of love that's like a donkey. It can do stuff, but it's also kind of just a donkey. One one saying I really like. I guess you can't see all of it because of my head, but the Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao, right? So that means, like, if you kind of overlap that with the word in the beginning, it's with God, right? You could even say it is God, right? That the word love is inspired. We use it because of the love that motivates us, even if it's not fully there yet. So I know I don't know if I'm just gonna. Anyway, the Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. The unnameable is the eternally real. That's, what is unnameable is the word for that would be awe. What causes awe? And, there's lots of ways we can pursue that. We can pursue awe, even though we can't describe it. And we can try and embody awe, even though we can't articulate it. Naming is the origin of all particular things. So everything that starts off that way. I know for me, finance, stocks, started off just as a name. Now it's a lot more to me. Free from desire. Free from desire, you realize the mystery. So we also find that names can have important things, like calling people names has an effect, right? Calling them good names has an effect. Calling them bad names has an effect. In fact, it seems to get more results than anything else in life. And so We can kind of get caught up in that, which is sad because we just get stuck in that very first where we're just a donkey, I guess. Um, Caught in desire, you see only the manifestations. Manifestations, you could say, projections, or ideas about things, which ideas about things can be completely wrong. Yet mystery and manifestations arise from the same source. For some context, mystery is, I mean, you could, I think that's love is one way they're kind of defining it. There's is It's the great mystery, that we keep every day trying to get better and better at. And manifestations rise from the same source. This source is called darkness. Darkness within darkness, the gateway to all understanding. So uh, let's see. Um, so hold on. Okay, so this story makes a lot more sense. I've heard a lot of people, like if you don't understand the symbolism of something, you're going to have kind of wild beliefs about it. It might sound completely strange. For example, in the story of Noah and the ark, right? That God got mad at basically no one met his bar, so he just drowned the entire world. Seems not super virtuous. I could see why someone would have resistance to that idea. Uh, but when you think about the symbolism, it can make a lot more sense. So here you have, we'll go to kind of the Hindu tradition, right? And down here at, oh, I actually can't see as well. Anyway, so down at the bottom, you can imagine basically there's what's called a manifestation current, and it goes up, and then it gets all the way to the top, and then it goes all the way back down into action. So this symbolically is that you have, oh man, I should have kept it. Anyway, you have a feeling, which is, in my opinion, is an evaluation of what's meaningful. It's one of seven meaningful approaches, and your heart's just telling you which one in general to do at that moment. And then it passes that on to your head, and then your head frames it up logically, and then you can actually do the action. And so symbolically, the heart is actually water. So if you think about it, you have like this the symbolism of water rising all the way to the top, and getting rid of all the things that are not meaningful, and then being able to come back down. And so, in my opinion, Noah's Ark is actually just a different perspective on the manifestation current. That it's the process we go through to take a feeling and turn it into a thought. And what does that entail? Well, you need to gather one of each animal, and two of each animal, and load them up to the ark. We are the ark, and then outside of our control, right? The flood comes, and that flood could also be Kundalini, the snake, right? In other religions or philosophies, and goes up, and that's I want to say, like, kind of purifies it. Then the part coming down um, would symbolically actually be like Moses coming down, right, from Mount Sinai, where he had written something written, right? Because at the let's say the Noah's Ark thing, right? It's just water, you know. Um, we don't have any way to describe it, but by the time it gets to our head, then we can actually have written things to come down and work on. And, similarly, right before then, Moses went through the Red Sea. So this process of integration is in gathering the animals, right? And so how does that come back into this like nativity? You have uh, right. You needed the shepherds. So some part of us, like in dream symbolism, we're every part of the story, right? Is like kind of like like someone like Mary would be our heart, someone like Joseph would be our brain, and then each other character would be another facet of us. So if you have a weird dream about someone else, in my opinion, it doesn't mean anything about them. That it's what they represent. So if someone appears in your dream, you can just like maybe describe them in 3 words. Likely it's one of those 3 words, or it's all three. And so French toast, God is dead and Michael killed him. And Johnny Jakes, yes, I wish I would have met you in person as well. We'll have to repeat the trip. That way I can meet more people. So you have the shepherds, right? There are parts of us that like to nurture things that are vulnerable. And actually, to maybe to explain that even better, I'll get to this. So when you, in my opinion, basically there are things that are immeasurable and things that are measurable, right? The worth of a human, right, is immeasurable. The use of a finite object is finite. And so the thing is that there's our dreams are helping us sort out into each box what's actually belongs to the world of love and what belongs to the world of logic, and then so we can treat them accordingly. And so when you get a symbol that means logic or love, it's the yang, it's masculine, it's physical, it's intellectual and conscious, it's structure and permanence, it's light or white, it's the right side or it's in front, it's high, above, or up, closed, narrow focus, order, life, uh, reptile, square, cross, skyfather, or branches. And so in your dreams, when if it's symbolic, usually it will double, triple, quadruple up the different symbolisms. In if something's love, it's yin, it's feminine, meaningful. The 4 loves. Uh, it's metaphysical, it's intuitive, it's unconscious, it's space for something, it's darkness or black, it's the left side or behind, it's low, below, or down, open, wide focus, chaos versus death, uh, mammal, water, round, spirit, Mother Earth, and roots. And so with this, it makes a lot of other things make sense. For example, there's a scripture where in the Old Testament, when the prophet is going down the road and some youths call him Baldy, and it says that he curses them, and a she bear comes out and kills them. It's pretty messed up. Seems like kind of a harmless act. I think a lot of people, for some reason, I kind of on both sides, the people that believe in the Bible and the people who don't, kind of, I like dismiss certain details about that. One is that it specifically says she bear. And why would that be important? Well, if it means that she was a she bear, like how did they know? Was it that they saw cubs? Because if the real story was that some kids were messing with the cubs and then the mama bear came and killed them, that really wouldn't have anything to do with the prophet. It would have just been kind of irony. So then the idea of it being a curse from God wouldn't make sense. And if the cubs weren't there, then why would it be specific that it was, you know, a mother bear? And it's because, right, you have something that's it's mammal, and and feminine, and and meaningful, right? It's not meaningful to expose someone's nakedness, to exploit their vulnerabilities, right? And like your heart will is not going to get on board with that sort of activity. So right, like so these types of when you see it through that, even like a lot of people don't like the songs of Solomon, right? Similarly, if you use these symbols and they read the songs of Solomon, it like makes a lot more sense. Otherwise, it seems like kind of a bizarre like sex story in the middle of the Bible, which I don't know if someone had a sense of humor or what. Um, anyway, so let's see where. Oh yeah. So getting back to the manger, right? So you have now imagining these sheep, right? Are just one of these. There's something meaningful, right? There may be a facet of love. You could say each animal kind of shows up that way. Like a dog would be loyalty. Horse is motivation, and so when you think about the shepherds, though, like they look up and they see the star, and so a star, and up would be logic. And symbolically, what's trying to be made is paradise. And paradise is a walled garden. So the wall is logic. It frames up and so that the garden can thrive. It keeps it from the hot winds. It keeps it from the enemies. It makes the watering system more effective. So those if our shepherding instinct, to see the vulnerable things and to protect them, can put us in kind of a binary way of looking at things, that either everyone's either a sheep that we need to protect or a wolf that's trying to attack them. And that can kind of lead to codependency and other similar things. So you also have the magi that come from the east, right? Well, symbolically, it's the east. The east is yin, so it's meaningful, and and the word magi, even magic, it comes from just like the same thing as magnificent, which is that something's great, and and so when we're trying to bring everything together, we can kind of reflect back, or we can like ask ourselves, is what I'm going to do great? Like, am I going to be glad I did it, in a meaningful way, right? And there's all these things that have to come together in order to, because if it's imbalanced, even in like some like Celtic, um, uh, like or Scandinavian, I guess ancient philosophy, basically they surround themselves with all the names of God, and you could say each one could be an animal. Symbolically in dream language, it actually is. And because, like, how do you be as stubborn as a donkey, but as trusting as a sheep, right? Like, those are quite opposite. But what you can do is see the best parts of being stubborn, um, like a donkey, but then also the best parts of following like a sheep, and then kind of try and be in the middle. And if you have all of these sort of seemingly opposite dichotomies, and if you center yourself in the middle, uh, well, magic happens. Um, Everyone kind of explains this process in different ways, but in my opinion, it it's all the same. It all leads to to love and logic coming together, which symbolically is a baby. That's why in you know Roman and Greek mythology, they have all these weird incestuous sort of like like you'd think that like it'd be pretty weird to worship like gods that were incestuous. I mean, it'd also be weird to imagine that worshiping a vengeful god that's just like out drowning people and killing kids by getting mauled by a bear. So similarly, I don't think that that's what the Greeks or the Romans were worshiping. But really, like you look on the two sides, you have the logic and love, and each time they kind of come together, they produce something that's a little bit closer, a little bit more integrated. And at the center of both of them is something like Hercules, or in like Norse mythology has it kind of even more clear, right? You have the North, the Aesir and the Vanir, and you have like Odin on one side, and then you have the frost giants on the other side, and it's this process of, instead of building a wall, this process of integrating it, but it's terrifying. One actual part of Norse mythology is Fenrir, who's a wolf, and he keeps getting bigger and bigger. Nothing can really stop him, and people were scared of that. In psychology, they call it like the Jonah complex. We're scared of our own greatness, and because like our heart can tell us to do pretty crazy things. I know mine has. Jumped on a plane and gone out, to Florida a couple of times now, and it was crazy but worth it. And I mean, I yolled everything on on a stock. Crazy, but I think it'll be worth it. So, we have dreams, like even just right now, right? Like the I had ideas I wanted to talk about, and the idea of the criticism or whatever was scary. It's easier to just like do nothing, because then nothing happens, right? And so in Norse mythology, this wolf that kept getting bigger and bigger, they tried to bind it, and they couldn't. They tried, bigger and bigger chains, and finally, what they did is they bound it with impossibilities. It was like the sound of a cat's footprint and a rainbow, and I can't remember what other things, but all these things that that don't exist, and that's what messes up this whole process. That's what this process of our heart and mind coming together and producing something, like the baby Jesus. It just kind of automatically happens. We don't have to seek it. It happens. It happens faster if we look up and follow the stars, but life presents us super random ways of accomplishing this. The problem is when we let a certain type of impossibility, which is proving, like trying to make someone think or feel something specific about us, including ourselves, trying to make ourselves feel something specific about ourselves. That's the impossibility that binds us, and that's what has to. Now that I think about it, we definitely should go really deep into Norse mythology on the next one if anyone likes this, because I think what I've noticed, each kind of mythology, they go into a lot of depth in one portion of the integration process, and then just kind of glance over the other portion. So yeah, mythology would be really cool. So I'm trying to think of what else I had to say. I don't know if anyone has any questions. I'm. It's a lot harder just actually chilling by myself. But yeah, I do plan on doing more of this. I think our dreams do have meaning. They can lead us in the right direction. And if anyone has any dreams they want to talk about, I'd love to hear them. Just message me. Um, oh, so speaking of that process where um, of how this happens, this is actually kind of a really cool part. So this is mana, or at least a drawing of mana, and mana actually means what is this, and so every day. So the desert, right? You have a desert. So you think about that symbolically. Well, there's no water, right? It's also not high, so it's like neither heart nor mind. And symbolically, our willpower is a tree because because it's what binds the our heart and our mind together. And so in a desert, there's no trees. We can't seem to get both our heart and mind on the same page, and so anything that's like a trunk of a tree would be our willpower, which would also be like a rod or even a magic wand. Would be the same symbol. And so when you can also look, if there's a lot of trees, they're symbolically choices, because each choice is where the result of our heart's evaluation and our minds framing it up comes together into a choice. So that's kind of who you are in that moment, is what you choose. And it changes, right? Because the past you doesn't exist. The only thing that exists is the current you that has the ability to choose. And I think choices matter. I think so. So in the desert, there aren't any trees. It doesn't seem like there's any choices. I wasn't planning on talking about this, but so what happens? Well, normally there's a carnival. Well, oh man. Okay, sorry. Too many good things. Okay, so back to mana, right? Um, so mana is what is this? So every day they would get enough mana that they could eat in that one day, right? And that's how it is for us. That if we take things as they come, instead of dwelling on the past, which like keeps our mind busy, um, and prevents it from processing things in the present, we don't. If our mind or our heart are stuck in the past or the future, I kind of see depression that way. Is that basically our attention is just too far in the past, and anxiety is more that our attention is too far into the future. And if we bring it onto the present day, you know, 5 out of 7 days, we get exactly the amount of whatever this is that we can handle in one day, and it's good. Then one day we get too much to handle in one day, and then one day we don't get any. So this doesn't mean literally 24-hour periods or anything, just that it kind of over time it evens out. And so all we can do is eat it, because if you don't process the unknown that's kind of apportioned to you by the universe, God, your own psyche, I'm not really sure, it kind of builds up, and it can get worms, right? And it can kind of corrupt the rest, and it starts to smell bad, rot. So this process. So what happens when we get? So symbolically, actually, the Sabbath day is the same as the carnival, and it's when you don't get any manna, right? And it's where you kind of turn things up. You turn your priorities list upside down and try something that's not your first priority. Because a lot of times we're just in survival mode, and we don't really see anything else on our radar other than that. We're just working, by the sweat of our brow, we're just grinding out the food on the table. And so, it's important to every once in a while take a break and explore those things that aren't maybe an absolute priority, and see what happens. Because sometimes maybe it's just something we didn't know that's actually more important than we thought. So let's see. So you'll see this symbolically when they get into the desert, and then suddenly there's a carnival. Now that I mention it, you're going to see it in lots of stories and movies. It's pretty funny. Sorry, I'm just gonna read some comments real quick. Wow, it is so fun to have so many wonderful people. Like just like how we all came together. Uh, it's magic, I think, and it's really fun to uh, trace back all the synchronicities that brought this to where it is now. So I'm kind of going a lot of different random places, but basically, I guess TLDR, especially if anyone's new, is um, we have our emotions. In my opinion, are real. They're suggesting real things, and uh, they're painting the meaningful context for our experience. And if we just continue using our heart, using our mind, not letting identity get in the way, not trying to prove anything. I think the biggest kind of distinction is doing versus proving. Things can be incidentally proved, but anytime we're endeavoring to prove, it's gumming up this whole process. So, uh, to and as far as we're scared of labels, right? Those labels, those identities that we don't like. One of them is a donkey, right? And but I think when we accept that, you know, coming back to where I started, was in the beginning was only the word. All we had is a word to describe what we feel inside. We don't have the capability or capacity to actually do it. I think everyone at their core is motivated by love. It's just very possible to go after a very small amount of love in a really crappy way. So I think if we cut ourselves some slack and be like, it's okay to be a donkey. I mean, Jesus started his journey on a donkey and ended his journey on a donkey. Um, you know, that, uh, we're never going to be doing things perfectly, but we don't have to wait until we're a beautiful butterfly to enjoy life. There's something to be said about being a caterpillar. We obviously shouldn't stay a caterpillar forever, but anyway, I love you all. You're all awesome, and I hope you guys are having a wonderful Christmas, and you know that you take some time to reach out to people you love, and then tell them you love them, even if they're a donkey. And if you have any feedback or any other questions, I'd love to cover it. So love you all, and I'll